So, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our event with the wonderful Rob Parker. Can you keep your microphone switched off throughout the interview? And also, if you can keep your camera switched off as well, that would be wonderful. So delighted that we've got Rob Parker with us this evening, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Rob that I whipped off his website earlier today. So, Rob lives in a village near Manchester, UK. He's the author of the Ben Bratton books, A Wanted Man and Mort Point, and the standalone post-Brexit country noir Crook's Hollow. Also, Blackstone, which is a horror novel, and Far From the Tree, which is currently out in audio. He enjoys a rural life on an old pig farm, now minus the pigs, writing horrible things between school runs. He writes full-time as well as organising and attending various author events across the UK, although not recently because of the pandemic. And he also boxes regularly for charity. He's passionate about inspiring a love of the written word in young people, and he spends a lot of time in schools across the Northwest, encouraging literacy, storytelling, creative writing, and how good old-fashioned hard work tends to help good things happen. So, good evening, Rob.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, can you just tell us a little bit about what inspired you to become an author?
Such a great question. I think it's time spent at my grandparents' house. My grandma and granddad. Granddad had a bookcase full of pulp novels upstairs and thrillers, and I'd sneak upstairs and have a few pages here and there. But he also had a shelf downstairs of VHS tapes that he'd taped off the telly, bank holiday movies and stuff like that. And he had, when you used to get a VHS tape, it would come with like a set of sticky numbers and letters, wouldn't it? And that you could come up with your own filing system. Well, he'd done that, and he'd done like his own sort of Dewey Decimal System for it as well that only he could decipher. And so I used to go through that, and there were so many classics there that I fell in love with. So storytelling would definitely come from my granddad, 100%.
Your granddad sounds a little bit like a frustrated librarian there, to be honest, cataloguing everything and putting these little bits and bobs on. That's fabulous. So how did you get your first book published?
Gosh, it took a long time. I've always wanted to be a writer, right from when I was a little boy. And I'd always been writing just any chance that I got, always in the background. So much unfinished stuff, though. So I'd be the kid that when you arrive the first day on holiday, I'd go down to the nearest shop and buy a notepad, a fresh, clean notepad on the first day of the holiday, and try to write a novel in it while I was away on holiday. And of course, it never got done. It never got finished. And I've got notepads all over the place with unfinished stuff. And it was only really when I got to the age of 29 when I needed 6 knee surgeries after injuring myself at football. So I needed 3 on one leg, 3 on the other, and I was out of work for 18 months. And I've got no shame in ever saying that my head wasn't great at the time. I didn't feel great about that at all. I felt far too young to be in that position. I know there's far many more people in much more difficult positions than that. But I was very sad about it. And I could feel my brain was turning to mush, like sitting at home watching daytime television all day and that kind of thing. And I'd totally forgotten my love of writing and reading during that period. So I started reading again. I picked up my favorite book ever, which is Benchley's Jaws, and started reading that, and it pulled me out again. It started, and like the downward spiral started to reverse, started to feel better about things. And then I thought, this is it. This is probably the one chance I've got where I've got nothing on my plate. I'm not allowed to work. I'm going to write as much as I can. So I wrote a book in 6 weeks, and this was around when you could, self-publishing to Kindle was definitely a thing at this point, and I couldn't believe it was that easy. So I just, as soon as I typed the end, I just like uploaded the Word document to the Kindle store, threw together a quick cover, and away we go. And I couldn't believe that people were reading it then. And then I started to think that this could be it. This is the chance to go for it now, and it's also a chance. I'm definitely a silver linings guy. Bad things happen in life, and if we can find the good in them, or turn them into something positive, bring positives out of negatives, then I'm all for that. So I wrote a second book pretty quickly, and then I started thinking, now wouldn't it be cool that if these books were in shops, you know, and yeah, that started out the pursuit of a literary agent, um, and it took me well in the first sort of tranche of emails that I sent out to literary agents, there was 250, and I got 250 rejections. So that was when I stopped counting the rejections. So that taught me one of two things. One was, maybe writing is not for me. If that's part of the maybe writing and trying to be a published author wasn't for me. But it made me really thick-skinned in terms of, I mean, I love one-star reviews now. They're just the best. I absolutely love them. So yeah, and then it took. I found an agent eventually after kept plugging away. But this was all 2013. So then that first book, my agent at the time, we rewrote that 46 times to get it ready for publication. We eventually found a publisher in 2017, which is when it came out. So it really wasn't there was no overnight success here or anything like that. It was a real long slog, slow burn. I wouldn't change anything at all because I learned so much during that period. And I think I'm a much tougher person now because of that period. So yeah, I'm super smiling, super happy all the time about this. I can't believe I get to do this.
That's great. Yeah, knee injuries sound horrific, but that's definitely a very inspirational journey. 250 rejections and 46 rewrites. I mean, goodness gracious.
With the rejections, it was really, 200 didn't even get back to me. In fact, I still get the odd rejection from them now. From that, no matter how many years later. But it was really, there was of the 250, there was 50 that did get back, and 40 were really polite, thanks but no thanks, but 10 were really harsh, like, don't waste my time again, you've not got it, you have no original voice. That is the expression I remember. You've got nothing to say. And I remembered, and every time someone said something like that, it could have sent me all over the shop, but I thought, no, that's fuel to the fire. Turn it into a log, stick it on the fire, we'll make this work, we'll show them.
And you definitely did show them as well. So good on you. Good on you. So where do you actually do your writing? Do you have a specific room? I know Roald Dahl always had a writing shed.
Yeah. Well, I've got 3 young children, so I can't be precious at all. So it's literally just, can I squeeze 5 minutes here? Yes, I can. So I'll write anywhere. I have to be honest, there is a particular table in my local pub that of the 4th Ben Bracken book, it came in at about 80,000 words. I wrote 60,000 of them at that particular table. So much so that the landlord in there calls it my office. So it's just wherever feels good and wherever you can get the moment. I can't be too precious at all.
I bet you can't wait to get back to your office so you can continue
I'm pretty excited.
Definitely.
Yeah, pretty excited.
So where does your ideas and your inspiration come from?
Being alive. I know that might sound trite, but just being alive and saying yes to stuff. I certainly try to live as full a life as I possibly can. Take all opportunities that are available to me. If someone asks me whether I want to do something, and if I have to think about it, like I don't really want, I'll make myself do it, because I'll always have something. There'll always be some growth within me from that. I'll always grow as a person a little bit because of that. And that gives you oodles to write about. So just living a life, getting out there, getting stuck in, smiling, being polite opens doors you didn't even know were there, and it costs nothing to smile. It just never does. So definitely I say yes to as much as I can and go out there and get at it.
I think that's a wonderful philosophy to have. And I'm always smiley as well, so I know what you mean. It's great.
There you go.
So I've interviewed quite a few authors over the last few weeks. And would you say, because everyone's different, is it plot or place that comes first with you, or does it just vary upon the book?
That's a really good question. For me, it's actually character. I think that to start a new book, I'll usually start with a character. I know that's not one of the answers, one of the script. I've gone off piste, I'm sorry. But it's usually, if I come up with a character, story tends to spiral from that. So We talked just before we came on air about the build a story stuff that we do with the Northern Crime Syndicate, and that's literally an exercise I just do at home when I'm trying to think up of something new. Is to think up mad characters and see where we can put them in, and usually something blossoms from that. Um, but no, I mean, a sense of place is also really important to me, because I feel if a place becomes a character in its own right, um, the audience can immerse themselves so much more into that. And it's all part of the world building. And once you're immersed in that world, and the reader is committed to that world, it's very easy to get away with more creative things in there, and things that take a little bit of a leap of perhaps logic and a bit of creative. What do they call it? Artistic license. If you've hooked the readers in by the point that you do things like that, they're more often than not going to stick around for the ride. I hope.
Do any of your characters ever surprise you? Do they take on a life of their own?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know where I put it now, but in Crooks Hollow, I didn't know who the killer was until until I was right in the end. I had no idea, but because I'd done that thing with the characters where I'd built them all from very simple beginnings, like what's their name and where are they from and what do they do with life, that kind of stuff, and because I'd built them up layer by layer, they become very real in my head. So then, by the time I got to the end of that, I was like, I really need to work out who the baddies are here. And then one of the characters said it was me. And then in my head, almost, another one behind them went, me too. And but because the characters I'd known what they were like from the very beginning, it worked. So they definitely, and I'm all for that. Let the book and let the characters do whatever they want to do. And I hope you can hold on. That's what I like to do.
So I take it from that you're saying you're not a planner, you're more sort of fly by the seat of your pants kind of author.
No, yeah, but well, very much so. Although I've never planned a book before. I've had maybe an opening scene in my head, and I'll have one note about it, like it's raining, and the character just gets a phone call and says this, and that's the extent of my plan. And also, I'll have an idea of what the ending will be like, because I feel like if you've got a vague idea of the beginning and the ending, the middle has a sort of an air of logic to it when you think about it. It has to go from there to there. So if I think about it in those terms, it helps. But I'm also the kind of guy that really likes, like, I'm such a geek. I get excited about a blank page because I look at it and think, like, look at all I can do with that. I can't believe, look at all the possibility and opportunity, and I can do anything I like with that. But having said that, on the sequel to Far From the Tree, which is called And Your Enemy's Closer, and it's coming out with Audible later this year and will be out next year in print with Red Dog Press. And I got so lost even thinking about it. I got nervous. I got like intimidated by it. So I actually, as luck would have it, I've actually got the plotting board for that right there. So I actually did it for this one, and I don't want to tell any of my friends who are also non-plotters, but it really helped. It really helped.
I love your plotting board. That's great.
Yeah.
Yes, well done. Yes, as I say, when I was talking last week to an author about what they did, I had visions of them like putting little pins and connecting it all up with bits of string and things. So that's what that is. That's great.
Yeah. Oh no, that there is literally, seriously, you've got pins on there, and that is string. So exactly right. Yeah, pins and string. You got it.
I absolutely love it. Do you think you'll do your next book like that then, or do you think you'll just sort of go for it?
I really don't know, because I don't know quite what my next book is going to be. I've got a gap between April and August to write it, and there's stuff working behind the scenes at the moment that I don't quite know which one it's going to be. I know what's coming after that one will be the third book in the Far From the Tree series, the 30 Miles trilogy, which will finish off that trio of books. But no, I mean, I'm at the moment, I'm raring to go. I just have to wait for things behind the scenes to get sorted out before I can start.
Ooh, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I'm terrible with spoilers and dropping information and stuff like that, so I'm being really careful here.
Just feel free, anytime you want, just drop me a spoiler or something, it'd be marvellous. So how long does it normally take you to write a book?
When I'm in the first draft, I'm 2,000 words a day every working day, and I stick to that as religiously as I can, because I look at it that if it's a 5-day working week, 2,000 words a day by 5 days gives you 10,000 words. I try to come in anywhere between 80,000 and 90,000 words for a first draft. That will obviously change the more work that goes in afterwards and whatever. But once you've got that body of work, you can do all sorts with it. So I look at it like, yeah, you give me 8 or 9 weeks, I can give you a first draft.
That's great, because I know a lot of writers take an awful lot longer than that to actually do it. And I'm impressed because obviously you do have 3 small children. Actually doing that 2,000 words a day is really good.
Some days the words come easy. Some days it's really, really like pulling teeth and hard. And but I think it's something that people don't talk about very much with the writing game is the discipline of it. Discipline is huge, because once you've done that, I mean, I think anyone, like anyone who writes something of any length like that deserves massive credit. They really, really do, because you have poured yourself at that, because you have to pour yourself at that. But there's no sort of like guaranteed way of going about it. Whatever works for me might not work for the next person, and so on and so forth. You only find out by doing. I've only found out that, like, for a while I tried to do 2,500 words a day, and I just found it too much. So, even though it's only 500 more, I just found it too much for me. So yeah, and it might go away, but while we are where we are, I'm going to stick to it.
Have you got any unpublished or unfinished books tucked away anywhere that you think you might come back to?
I don't think books. I've got lots of screenplays that are some of the worst screenplays you'll ever read in your life. But no, I've been very lucky that the books I played with and tinkered with until they were publishable. So no, there's no lost novels or anything like that at this point. Lost films, yes, there are.
So this year has been really difficult for everybody, obviously, with the pandemic. How's that impacted on your writing and on you as a writer?
Wow. I think as a writer, it's made me focus and be more sort of. It's improved my dedication. So I think I've written, I think, 5 first drafts since lockdown 1 began a year ago. Or is it 4? And what am I allowed to talk about? I'm not sure. But anyway, it's helped. I've been able to do a lot. I've been able to get a lot done. It's improved my dedication. It's improved my discipline. But also, I mean, doing things like this, I've been able to connect with a lot of wonderful people who I now class as great friends, and it's just great like that. The Northern Crime Syndicate, and I know you've spoken to all my colleagues up to not quite Judith yet, but meeting those, and I admire them hugely, and what they've achieved, and I feel so grateful to be a part of what they're doing. So socially and personally, writing has been a huge plus during this difficult time. 100%.
That's excellent. I forgot where my unmute button was there. Yeah, forgot I've got to unmute myself, but never mind. So of all your books, what's been the hardest scene for you to write?
Oh, I don't know actually. There was some stuff in Blackstoke that was really not very nice, and as I was writing it, it was like, I can't do this, can I? Can I? And then, go on, we'll see how it goes. And then I'd revolt myself while I was writing it. Oh, Rob, you've gone horrible here. But no, I think I'd look at the challenge of all sorts of things, and embrace the challenge. So I try and put myself in different perspectives. I'm trying to increase the diversity in the casts that are in my books now as well. The older that I'm getting, yeah, I'm more of an embrace it. I like the challenge. There's nothing I've found that I think. Actually, no. The action scene. Yes, I've got an answer. They're definitely, instead of waffling, I've got an answer. It's definitely in Far From the Tree 2. That's And Your Enemy's Closer, which is coming out later this year. In the middle of it, I really wanted it to build to something, but the strands were so all over the place in the middle that it was a heck of a job trying to key them all together and pull them back into something that would meet. And that is where that planning board came in. And in doing that, it took such a long time. It was like such a mental slog to try to keep everything together and try to bounce between the voices of the various protagonists. And it felt like I was doing mental arithmetic the whole time. That's what it felt like, and heavy lifting.
I bet you felt really good when it all came together at the end, though.
The relief was huge. I've got to go through it again now and see whether it actually worked or not. I'm kind of dreading that as well.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it'll be absolutely
Hope
marvellous.
so.
So you did mention a little bit about Blackstock earlier. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that book that traumatized me so much as a reader? And also, why did you move from crime to horror?
Such a great question. So mysteries, I want to be a mystery writer. And I think that mystery can cover a huge gamut of different sort of subgenres as well. And I think overall, I really like writing crime, and I know that's where my career has started. But I certainly want to write all sorts of different mysteries and exciting stories, stories that keep you turning the page. That's really what I want to be about. And in this instance with Blackstoke, I had the core idea of a mystery, and it just sort of got out of hand and got more and more darker and bleaker. And I didn't mean it. I didn't mean to write a horror. I just didn't at all. So I got halfway through writing it, and I thought, I'm at a fork in the road here. It can either go really downhill really fast here, and we could really embrace this, and it will be bleak, or I can try and tone it back. But that didn't feel like the story that I was trying to tell. So when it was at the halfway point, I went and approached Red Dog Press, the publishers, because I'd always wanted to work with them. I love what they do. And I said to them, do you want to have a look at this 30,000 words? But I didn't say that it was from me, because they know me. So I did. So I did it. I said it was a submission from Bob Q. Creasy. But because I'm not very good at, the spy stuff, I sent it from my own personal email account. So they knew it was from me, and I just hadn't thought. So they were like, yes, Bob, we'll have a look at your 30,000 words. And they said, yeah, we'd like it. You go and have fun with that second half of that book. We'll take it. And that was great, because then I felt like, right, the gloves are off. Let's just go and finish this book and see where it goes. And I think I finished the second half of the book in about 5 weeks and just had an absolute riot with it. I let everything happen that could possibly, I think, within the parameters of the world we've set up, happen. So what Blackstoke is about essentially is 5 families move into the first completed corner of a plush upmarket new build estate. And they're all settling in, but strange things start to happen. And I think that's all I can say.
And I am never moving to a new housing estate ever again. It's really good, and it totally different from your other stuff as well.
Oh, thank you.
Worth a read if anyone
Thank
in
you
our
so
audience
much.
hasn't read it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. You couldn't do us a little reading from the book, could you, just to tempt people's appetite?
Of course I could. Yeah, I've got I've got it here. Of course I could do a reading. If I did the prologue, would that be cool?
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Okay, this is no introduction necessary. This is the prologue from Blackstoke. He was small, so small, as if some higher being had agreed to grant him life, but begrudgingly, using only the scantest of table scraps. Months early, he was fully formed yet scaled down almost to the quick, and had spent each of the 3 days he'd been alive in a perspex box, alone. But suddenly, that changed. The lights around the box took on a far more intrusive hue, flickering wildly, and screaming erupted all around him. He was crying, alone. A shadow cast over the box, and it was ripped open with a loud bellow. Hands plunged in to grab him, and he was lifted out urgently. He knew the touch immediately. The speed of movement couldn't mask the softness and smell he knew innately. Not alone anymore. He was carried away from the noise, away from the heat, and away from the churning, rasping thickness that suddenly choked the air. Down, then down again. It's okay, a gentle voice repeated to him as they moved. It's fine. It's going to be just fine. You and me, she said, and she echoed those words until there was only darkness left for them both. There we go.
Ooh, and it is really good. I did enjoy it. Is
Oh,
it
thank you.
based on any place in particular?
Yes. There is
I was hoping you weren't going to say that.
yeah, there is. Yeah, I'm not for fear of the people who actually do live there, and and I do know some people who live there. But yes, there is a housing estate that if you've read the book, you will know that it goes a certain area and there's a certain history attached to the area on which the estate is built. There is an exact circumstance like that in my hometown where there is an estate built on something like that. So I wouldn't recommend they read the book, really.
Definitely not. And how do you switch off as an author after writing? Because some of it is quite gruesome. How do you switch off after that?
Well, this was obviously the hardest one to switch off from because it's the sort of the darkest thing I'd ever written. But really, more than anything, I mean, again, it's my wife is amazing. You know, she's Mrs. Parker is an absolute saint, and she supports everything that I do and knows that I find it hard to switch off. Because I'm always churning with plot and lines and ideas and stuff. So when I finish writing for the day, I find it very hard at night. At night, I can just be staring into space because I'm still thinking of writing and stuff. And I would really like in my career, I would like to slow down a bit. I mean, like 5 books in this last year has not helped me not stare into space all the time, to be honest. So I'd really like to slow a little bit. But I mean, having children is just an absolute blessing, and being a dad means everything to me. So, spending time with them is the perfect tonic.
That's excellent. It's getting that balance, isn't it, between the two, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
So your next book, Far From the Tree, it's out as an audio book at the moment. Normally in the world of publishing, it would come out as a book and then be picked up as an audio book. How did it happen that it was sort of flipped?
Yeah, it was crazy. I'd written it because I wanted to write a sort of a grow up book for me. You know, I'd had a lot of, and I've still had loads of fun with the Ben Bracken series, but I feel like I was really sort of finding my feet with that, and I wanted to write something where I could try something a bit more um, mature. And I've grown up a lot as well, you know, believe it or not, I think I have. So yeah, Far From the Tree was always planned to be a trilogy. And I really wanted to work with Jenny Parrott at One World, the editor at One World, who is the head of editing, or she was at the time, at Point Blank, the crime imprint at One World. And I sent it to her and said, you know, I would love to work with you. Would you take a look? And she said, it's very good, but it's not for me, you know. And that's great because you hear that all the time, you know. It's I'd much rather honesty, always rather honesty. But she said, but I think this might fit for a friend of mine, and her friend was one of the commissioning editors at Audible, and they were looking for an Audible original, and they wanted a series, and this fit the bill for them. And she honestly, her kindness, I still am indebted to her. She's in the acknowledgements for the book because she didn't have, there was nothing in the game for her to pass that along to Audible, but she did through sheer kindness, and that just changed the face of my career. So I owe her everything in a way. So yeah, so then it was, let's do it as an audio. It'll be in Audible format for a year before it comes out in print. So it's out in print from Red Dog Press, in hardback and paperback. There's a proof that's going out to journalists at the moment. And yeah, July 2nd, it's coming out. So it's been brilliant. They are brilliant at Audible. Working with them was fabulous. Really top minds in the industry. They've been really great with letting their art, say that they design the art for the cover of the audiobook. They've been really great with saying your print publishers can use that as well. So Alice Morgan is my editor there, and she's superb. And Sean Coleman, who is my editor at Red Dog Press, the pair of them, I just feel like I'm in great hands with this.
Oh, excellent. That's, as I say, that's a really unusual story
Yeah,
as
it
well.
is.
Because I often hear the other way around, but not the audio book come first. So that's really good. We touched on a little bit earlier about how 1-star reviews don't affect you and all of that kind of thing. But what part does social media play in your life as an author?
Well, I think I'm going to be totally honest. Now I have to budget time onto social media in the day. because it's such a big part of being an author these days, I think, or certainly an author of my position in my career. I don't want to use the word stature because I'm starting. I'm at the start of what I hope will be a longer career in this. But certainly spending time on social media, interacting with readers and other authors, and truthfully, I've made so many great friends through doing that as well, and that has been a huge blessing. But readers and especially crime readers and crime authors are voracious as well. There's no competition there. So, if because we all just read everything we get our hands on. I mean, I'm absolutely the same. I'm surrounded by books in this room. I deliberately put them behind the camera so you can't see them. But I'm a massive reader and a fan of books. And I love the fact that I get to be part of an industry that is constantly bringing out great new stories. But no one's in competition with each other, and we all support each other. And it's just great. It's a lovely place to be. And the easiest place to be together like that is at the moment, it's on social media.
Do you ever Google yourself? And if so, what's the funniest thing you've ever found?
Well, it's amazing you say this because when I don't Google myself because I get lost in Robert B. Parker, the thriller writer. Who's that guy, right? So there was talk early in my career whether I should take that off, and change my name entirely. But I really, my name is my grandfather's name, and I'm different grandfather to the one I was talking about. This is my grandpa, and so I'm deeply proud to carry his name, and I'd like to carry it forward. What am I talking about? What was the question? Sorry.
Do you ever Google yourself? And if so, what's the weirdest thing you've found?
I know. So sorry. So what I did was, when my debut came out, A Wanted Man, I set up a Google alert for the phrase "A Wanted Man, Rob Parker," and I just could not have got this more wrong because I get updates of headlines from around the world where a Rob Parker somewhere is on the run for something he's done, and I find out what crimes this particular Rob Parker has got up to. I mean, I can't tell you how many times it's in Florida as well. So but I could have turned off the alert, but I decided to keep it because I still get them now. Just he's robbed a zoo. Great.
I think I would definitely keep the alert on. There's going to be a story in one of those at some time. That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. I love that. So you mentioned you're an avid reader. So who do you like to read?
Oh, there's so many people I love reading. I'm not sort of stuck reading the crime genre either. I'll read absolutely anything. But in the crime genre, Adrian McKinty is amazing. Who wrote The Chain and the Sean Duffy books. Meg Gardiner is amazing, American author with her the Unsub series. I just think blows my mind. I really like Michelle Paver, who with Wakenhurst that came out last year. But there's so much because I'm looking around here now because I've got Leslie Cara and Lauren North on my desk to my right here. They're brilliant. I've got there's Joseph Knox is amazing. His Aidan Waite's trilogy was amazing. I wish he'd do another one, but I don't think he is. But True Crime Story's got coming out this year as well. I'm so excited about absolutely everything. But I literally can't condense it down. Going backwards, I really love, obviously everyone loves Rankin and Michael Connolly. And I'm reading a lot of Don Winslow at the moment as well. But yeah, I love Peter Benchley, love all his books. There's nothing I won't try. So yeah, I'm sorry, I've just rambled. I apologize.
That's great, and I've got Leslie Carr on my desk at the moment as well.
Snap. I'll tell her. She'll be made up.
And the other one I really loved you mentioned was The Chain. That was really good. That was like, oh dear me, but good, excellent. Yeah. So as a kid, what did you read?
I loved Secret Seven, Famous Five. We have I've got American Family as well, and they would send us over stuff like the Hardy Boys and Encyclopedia Brown, all mystery stuff, all young people up against adults who should know better. I really enjoyed all that stuff. As I hit my teens, I really got into point horror. The R.L. Stein books. And before that, the Goosebumps books, but to a lesser extent. But Point Horror was amazing to me because I was maybe 10 or 11 getting into those. And, I couldn't believe it when I was that age. And it was like, people die in these books. This never happened in Secret Seven, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I loved that. That journey was great. And then from there, it was, Benchley's Jaws. I got it for 25p from a carnival near from where we live when I was supposed to be buying pick and mix. And it blew my mind to pieces. That then followed Dean Koontz. Him throughout my teenage years, I was never far from a Dean Koontz paperback.
Were you ever a fan of Stephen King as well?
I was, but I'm not very well read where Stephen King is concerned, truthfully. I wish I was, but when I was growing up, I was quite intimidated by the scale of the books. It is just gigantic, isn't it? So I was always a little bit put off by that, if I'm honest. Obviously, that's not my opinion now, but I get sent so much stuff to read now, and I find it such a privilege to get sent early books that I try and read as many as I can. And it means I can't go back. I can't dip in. So, like, if I see a 1,000-page Stephen King book, it's like I can't devote that much time at the moment to that. So this is all part of my grand master plan to slow down a bit.
So, have any of your favourite authors had an impact on your writing style?
Oh, that's a good question, because I do believe that we all, every writer or everyone who tries to create something, whether it's anything, it could be, pottery, music, whatever, we all magpie certain elements from things that have inspired us. And that's the idea, isn't it? Who are we if we're not trying to emulate those people that we are inspired by? So it's like the ultimate homage, isn't it? To be inspired by someone and try and do what they do to an extent. Obviously, plagiarism is something quite different, but I've never done anything like that. But certainly, I look at the punchy dialogue of some of those authors I mentioned, and McKinty, his sort of way with words. I mean, for me, the man's a magician. So I just love that, and the lyrical sweep of Michelle Paver as well. The care that they both put into the words they use, I just find them both so inspiring. So I would say those two have a huge impact on me.
Who's the most famous author that you've met?
Well, I did meet Adrian McKinty last at Harrogate a couple of years ago, mainly because I said to somebody else that, oh my God, he's my hero, and they marched over to him and said, hey, look, and stood me next to him. I was like, hi. But I've been really lucky. He's blurbed one of my books, so that was great. But no, I mean, because I get starstruck by so many people so easily as well. So we mentioned Leslie Cara before. I did an event with Leslie a couple of weeks ago, and I was dumbfounded to be on there with her. So yeah, I mean, and these people are all inspiring to me. So yeah, I went for a pint with Howard Linsky. That just was the best thing ever. It's just the best thing ever. It was a late night as well. It was the best thing ever.
That sounds brilliant. I think my most famous one was we were at the Harrogate Crime Festival again, and Anne Cleves took me over to meet Ian Rankin, and we're just standing there going, it's Ian Rankin. And it was just absolutely like awestruck. It was brilliant.
No, I know, but that's why that festival is so great, isn't it?
It is a really good festival. If anybody hasn't been in the audience, I mean, once it starts again, it's just tremendous. I mean, the entire weekend and the caliber of authors that they get coming along as well, it's absolutely brilliant.
It really is.
So the Northern Crime Syndicate, obviously we've mentioned that. How did you get involved with them?
Amazing segue that's going to work here, Pauline, is that it was at Harrogate. So almost like we planned it. I was at the bar in Harrogate when Judith came up to me, Judith O'Reilly, and she was like, if we were the Avengers, she was playing Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury role, and she said, can I borrow you outside? And we're putting together a team of crime writers to do events and stuff. And I was like, you were asking me, and I was just so excited to be involved. I remember hugging her and going, yeah, of course. And yeah, we sort of all agreed that's what we were going to do. And then the pandemic hit quite soon after, and we had to rejig all our plans. But we've done loads of events now online, and have a really, really nice loyal following, which I hope we can translate into the real world.
Oh, I'm sure you can. And as I've mentioned to all of the Crime Syndicate, you've got to come to the Word once we're allowed to
Wow.
have people in as well. Be brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So, for everyone in the audience, if you've got any questions to ask Rob, do pop them in the chat facility, and then it'll stop me yakking on again. So, anything you'd like to ask him, I'm sure he's more than up for to answer. And I've got a few more questions up my sleeve. They're the ones in me little spiel that I've said. And now for a bit of fun. So these are the little bit of off the wall questions. So you are stranded on a desert island. You can only take 3 books. What do you take? And only 3.
Only 3. Peter Benchley's The Jaws, The Spire by William Golding, and part of me wants to say The Beach by Alex Garland, but I think that'd be weird being on a desert island reading about that. So I don't know. Dark Matter by Michelle Paver. Yeah, those 3.
I love Dark Matter. That was
amazing,
brilliant book. Yes.
It's amazing. And I think that's the kind of book that you could read multiple times and get something new from every time.
Oh, absolutely. I've forgotten about that one till you
Yeah.
said that. Yes, crack and read. It was one of my reading group books. So
Really?
I had lots of people in South Tyneside reading that one. And if you could take one person with you to be stranded, not family or friends, but like an author, who would you take?
Oh, it's so tough. But I think I don't know. An author like I think. Oh, this is a really hard one. A really difficult one. An author I would take with me. I mean, because there's so many of them. Because now I'm thinking of what skills have people got. You know, like, so I think an amalgam of all the Northern Crime Syndicate minds would be great, because that no problem would be too difficult to overcome. I think like that. But let's take. Can we bring? I know he's passed away, but Michael Crichton. I just think he'd be so amazing to talk to. And his mind, I'm so interested in the way his mind works.
Yeah, you can definitely take him.
Oh,
definitely.
Thank God.
So, what would you say was the best money you've ever spent with regard to your writing?
That's an excellent one. I think I know what it is. Pens. I am terrible with pens. Losing them or not liking them. I need to find something that flows and is thick enough to see, but is not a Sharpie. Especially for signing books, because Sharpie for me goes through, and I don't want, it goes. It depending on the page thickness, it goes. This is the saddest answer ever. I'm so sorry, but I really like. This is so sad. A Papermate Flare in black, and they're not very expensive. They're just really, really nice to use. So I got a box of 15 from the Big River named outlet online, and I think it was £7, and it's just brilliant.
You don't write your novels longhand, do you?
No, sometimes if I have to do a bit of it longhand, I will do, definitely. Big sections of Crooks Hollow were written longhand, yeah, before typing up.
Wow, I'm impressed. There's not many people do that anymore.
I would recommend it. It took me forever.
You definitely need your nice pens to do that. Or
there you go. And it's got to be the flow. We can't have it scratching the paper or getting. It's got to be good in the hands.
Next question. If you could be a character in one of your favourite books, who would you be and why?
It really is unbelievably difficult, that one. Because there's Chief Brody in Jaws is one of my favourite literary characters ever, but in the book, it doesn't go so great for him in a personal way, because the book is quite different from the film. I don't know. Oh, Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird.
Good answer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Just thinking about all the qualities that you want to exhibit and human qualities, that is definitely it.
So I've only got a couple of questions left for Rob. So don't forget, anybody, if you'd like to ask him anything, do pop it in the chat, and I can ask those. But what do you need in your writing space to stay focused?
To stay focused, inspiration of other books around me, and um, the I like having pictures of my other books. You know, the covers. I quite like seeing those. Not from a that sounds really, really egotistical, and it's not from that perspective. It's more from that perspective where, look, Rob, if it's going difficult, you have done this before, and you can do it again. So if I can see one of my other covers, it reminds me that I can do it. Because you all have doubts. We all have those moments where it's just not working, and you feel like, oh God, I wish I wish I was writing something else, or um, and you can get down on yourself with it. I'm lucky that that hasn't really happened, because I can pull myself back around a little bit and remind myself, hang on a minute, you're writing books, man. This is the best thing ever. So yeah, those things really.
So would you say you've never really had writer's block then, and you've just sort of worked all the way through?
So far so good. So far so good. Yeah, so much so to the point that depending on the outcome of what's going on behind the scenes this week, I'll write the book that I want to write, or I'll write something else. I know there's something else I can dive straight into if it's not that. So we just got to see what's going to happen. I know which one I want to write.
You've been dead cryptic again.
I'm doing my absolute best, honestly. When I'm allowed to say anything, you'll be the first to know, I promise you.
Oh, good. And my final question, well, I have one after this as well, which I've asked all of our Northern Crime Syndicate authors. But my final question is, what is your writing kryptonite?
Writing kryptonite is romance scenes. I find them difficult to do, because it's not difficult. It's getting less difficult. But obviously, I was really worried about what people would. When you first start out, I mean, it's an impossibility to write something and not have a bit of yourself in it, or a bit of the way you think about certain things. And the idea of writing a scene like that and anyone associating that with me was to begin with. Whereas now I can separate myself quite happily from that, and it is what it is. But initially, that was the one, yeah. And I find it very hard to write stuff where children are concerned as well. Harm to children is not for me, and I find that hard. In books, I find it hard to read, and I find it hard to write even anything bordering on that.
I'm with you on that one. I don't like reading anything like that. And it's when I became a mom. So I presume it's the same when you became a dad and you have your own children. It's like, it's a horrible world you just don't even want to think about.
Shield them. Just shield them.
Absolutely.
They're through that door with bubble wrap on. They're fine.
Oh, right. We've got a couple of questions from the audience.
Cool.
From John App. Rob, you said you have loads of film scripts unfinished. Is this something you would ever go back to? And if one of your books were ever brought to screen, who would you insist on writing it?
Oh, very cool. I would love to be involved in film and television, principally because everything I write starts as a picture in my head. So I could do a storyboard of every moment in every book that I've written, because I certainly see it like a film in my head, if that makes sense. So writing scripts was so much fun because it taught me about brevity. I used to get really bogged down in description. I've went on for pages and pages of description, whereas you have to be so quick in a film script. You've got it's a page a minute. You've got to keep things rolling along. If I wanted someone to adapt my work, I mean, that's great, because I think I've learned that I'm not the guy for that from writing those scripts. I mean, they are astonishingly bad. But I think I really love stuff like Aaron Sorkin and Fincher. David Koepp, though, is the man for me who adapted Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park book. David Koepp did Was it Cold Storage that came out a couple of years ago? He did a novel, and it was outstanding. So I would say David Koepp.
Excellent. And our next question's from Sandra. What did you do before you became a full-time author, and at what point did you give up your previous job?
Very, very good question. I did all sorts, Sandra. I was a barman, a warehouse picker. I was a white van driver. I was sort of like a Mr. Fix-It dude with a white van. I was a county court advocate who was like the gun for hire who would go into court and fight. I'd get sent case papers the night before and go into court the following day and fight on behalf of whichever party paid. That sounds supremely mercenary. I'm sorry, but it was a job that was it was great for me at the time. I really enjoyed it, and that was like a character workshop every day because you learn so much about people when they're under pressure, and there is no kind of real pressure like the courtroom. So I enjoyed it, and it helped me a lot with my public speaking as well. I enjoy doing things like this. Really enjoy doing it. But I also, I quite like being under pressure. That's why I like boxing as well. I quite like it when the other guy on the other side of the ring wants to come over and, oh, he's coming to take my head off. Oh, best do something about it. That kind of thing. I quite like sink or swim moments. The boxing ring and the courtroom are great for that.
You've definitely had a very varied life, haven't you? Done lots of different things. So, come to the end of the interview now, but just before I let you go, we have got one more Northern Crime Syndicate author to interview, which is Judith O'Reilly. Can you tell our wonderful audience why they should come along and listen to Judith in a couple of weeks' time?
Well, Judith she's a fabulous author of, she's of range as well. So she's the author of The Wife in the North books. And also, she is a brilliant thriller writer who has taken note, who her work has been noted by all the top names like David Baldacci and Lee Child have all blurbed her books. It's the Michael North series you want to be looking for. Killing State is the first one, and Curse the Day is the second one. I know she's working on something new and fantastic, and I know things behind the scenes for her are also going to explode. She as an author is going to explode very soon as well. So not literally, like her career is going to going to expand in a really great way for her. So yeah, you can't miss it.
Brilliant. So that's on the 22nd of April. If you want to get your tickets for the talk, that would be absolutely brilliant. But Rob, thank you so much. That's been an absolute pleasure. I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. I can't wait for you all to come to the Word and do let's all add a little bit to the story. That'll be absolutely fabulous. So aim towards the autumn for that one. So fingers crossed, everything will be back to normal.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate everything. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate it so much.
It's been a pleasure, and get your tickets for the next one, everybody. And thank you all for coming. Bye.
Bye.